Now let's put together our assumptions and let's use that to build our typical model that has interest during construction. So let me call this assumptions. And let me zoom out. Right. Okay. So the first one, as I said, most times usually have our debts in different tranches. So maybe I'll call this tranche A, right? You can have tranche B. So you could have different financials, right? But for this, we're just going to use one as a case study. So you could have tranche B, you could also have tranche C. So different financials. So maybe this could be a bank A. All right, this could be a bank of industry. Then you have other, so maybe this will be commercial bank. So you could have different financials, right? So let me shorten this. Let me shorten this. Okay, yes. Right. So here I'll then call this. So let me put our assumptions together here. Then I'm going to call this. So the first thing that we need, let's say this is our, okay, I think it's always good to even get started with the main funding. So let's say funding, the main funding mix, right? So funding mix. I'll call this our debt, and this is equity, right? Let's put this here. So funding mix. So let's say our debt would make up of 70% and equal to 1 minus this to give us the remaining 30%, and everything must always sum up to 100%. Okay? Right. So now from the debt, we also now need to see what percent are we each of these contributing. So first thing, let's have our loan inflow period. Loan inflow period. Let me wrap this. Okay, good. So loan inflow period, let me just put 01/01/2024. Right, I can just copy it. Let me make that constant for all of them. Put it in our input. So typical project finance, you could have different data. All right, so maybe tranche kind of funds from one, or maybe phase one of the construction, this fund the other one. So you could have different, as I said, it's just a flexible thing. So when you are building your model, you must always think like that as well. So loan inflow period, then let's call this our loan period. All right, so let me put this in input. And let's do this so that we can add our units up here. Right. So most time I really like using this table approach. You can also be flexible with your own. So this is date. Just put a description date. This will be year. So for this, let's say this will be for a period of 7 years. I think most time commercial banks are at least 7 to 5 years. With all these other funding institutes that can still go as far as 10 years. So right, so loan period, then we can have our loan end period, right? So which will be equal to, okay, so I need so month in a year, so that will be 12. Just put that one here. The reason I'm doing that is I don't want to type inside a formula, so that will be equal to e date. So my start date, comma, then my month will be my loan year multiplied by this 12 months in a period. All right, so let's take use of Ctrl Shift 3 to format that into date. Then let me remember to put -1 at the end of it so that it appears like this. It is also a date. Then we now need our moratorium period, or so we decide to use grace period, right? We decide to use a grace period. So this will also be in here. So I'll just copy this, copy it, and put it here. Copy and put it here. So for our tranche, let's say 2 years. As I said, all this Bank of Industry or that can still give you more grace period, maybe 3 years. Commercial bank, 2 years, at times 1 year. It all depends, right? Okay, so on the part of the interest, so SOFR, and then we can have our maybe our spread, right? So this also depends. So maybe one of the sessions will cover up these parts of the interest expense. So this will now be the interest rate. So which would be, so this would be, make this A, all right, and this would be B. So our interest rate will then be A plus B, right? Yes. So before they usually use NIBOR, I think now we are using SOFR, right? So you can just do your research. Then we have this. Okay, so I'm just going to put this as input. Then this input, then format it as percent. So let's say our SOFR is at because most times they can even decide to give you a constant rate, right? So I think most of these BOI just kind of have a constant rate, but a typical commercial bank don't usually make use of a constant rate. But it all depends, right? It all depends. But they also make sure they adjust for they adjust for the time value of money. So as the SOFR is changing, it also changes in your own schedule as well and how you make the payments. Okay, so I'll just use some random thing. So maybe okay, let me go online and let me check SOFR rate. All right, so that even though it's going to be fictitious, let's still use something reasonable. Okay, so let me put it as 5%. For this Bank Confederation, I'm going to remove this, and maybe I'll just put this as 10%, so you can see the variability as well. So for banking, maybe their own spread could now be 7.5, right? As I said, it always depends, right? And then maybe this the same thing, 7.5. So by the time they calculate the interest rate with SOFR plus what? Plus our spread, you can see the interest rate, right? So at times you could also have some other charges that comes with the loan. So maybe you may need to pay your commitment fee, management fee, all those kind of things. You also bring that in. But let's just leave that for now. Then the other one that we need is interest. So interest capitalized. So let me write this. So interest capitalized. And what we are saying is this interest, is it going to be capitalized or it would be expensed? So I can just put my data validation at AVV shortcut. So at AVV will give me a shortcut for my data validation, a select list, and I'll put yes or either no. I can click on my OK. Right. So copy this down. I can even put it as my input as well. But we need to select. So maybe this period, let's for this one, yes. So interest, yes. And maybe you can have one that is not capitalized, but most times it's always a mixture. All right. So it depends on the agreements. So by the time before you start building your model, right, you usually have this term sheets that you need to read and understand all the proposed agreements. Okay, so interest capitalized for now, let's put it as yes. Okay, and we can take a step at a time. So here we have our assumptions, and as we start building the model, in case we need more assumptions, we can also come back here and put it as our input. Okay, yes. So one more thing that we need to add. Let me just shift this to the right, and I can put that one. So let me call this. So we need the funding contribution, right? So which means by the time we do our capex, right, the total funds needed. So let's even say here. Let's say here the total fund needed. Total funds. So total funds. Total funds needed is let's say 100 billion to 3 1 2 3. But let's just keep it straight, right? So let me just put this in to US dollar, and this is in million, right? We'll put this in input. Put this in input and say, well, we'll just make this something like 100, right? Maybe can even put it in video. That way, okay? So which means equal to this or multiply by the amount, right? Equal to our funding mix multiply by the total amount in debt, and we have this. So for this debt, right? Let's say a funding contribution, funding contribution, with funding contribution. So let me just copy this out percent format. Right. So out of the 70 million 70 billion that's needed, maybe this is going to fund, this will fund, let's say bill high, this will fund maybe 50%, this will fund, okay, or let's say 40%, then 30% and 30%. That should be 100, right? Okay, yeah. So it means this 70 would be funded by these three financials, right? So now that we've put this together, we now need to build the schedule for each of them. And one good thing is, all you need to do is to build for one, right? Make sure the one that you build is flexible, and you can duplicate it for the others. And all you need to do is just to update with the correct assumption. So let's get started with our calculation.